Good evening. This is Business Today on ChannelEye, and on this program we talk about business, entrepreneurship and much more with regards to the corporate world and so much. So on today's episode we are going to talk about corporate training, about entrepreneurship and much more. And to do so we have with us Sam Karandagoda. He is a corporate trainer and keep tuning in to discuss, and we'll see what we have planned for today's program. Mr. Sam, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Prashant. It's a pleasure to be here. One of the best television stations in the country.
Thank you.
So I'm quite happy to be here.
Pleasure is ours. So let's start off with a brief introduction about who and what you are.
Right. So I would like to describe myself as a person who is outgoing, willing to contribute to the society at large, and see the mutual growth in people. Every moment I meet someone, I think that is a learning opportunity for me. So that is if I am trying to describe who I am. But if I'm trying to describe what I am, so basically, as you rightfully said, I'm a corporate trainer, and in terms of my work background, I'm the managing director of Cognito Asia Private Limited. We are specializing in corporate training. In the meantime, I'm a visiting and a guest lecturer at government universities such as Moratuwa, Ruhuna, Sri Jadanapura, Kalani, etc., as well as several private institutions.
Great. And for those of you who do not know what corporate training is, do you mind telling us what is corporate training exactly?
Interesting question. Because our society is very concerned about education. It's evident by very high level of literacy in the country, right? But what happens is a lot of people think the education ends when their schooling ends. Right. It should not be the case, right? So it can be a schooling, it can be a formal higher education, but what we are promoting is the concept of lifelong learning. Any person who start their career, regardless of its formal recognized career, right? So you always think a career is where you are a doctor, engineer, accountant, etc. No. Even if you are a handicraft maker, you are a professional. That is the mindset we want. And within that mindset, we want people to continue learning. Corporate trainers come into the scene where we facilitate the learning. So a little different than a teacher. Because in the school, you remember you are being taught and you are being given notes to write, and you are supposed to write back what you were given. But what we are trying to do is we facilitate learning, especially in the adults, in a way that they start discovering the knowledge around their profession, as well as the kind of things that are needed to be a holistic human personality. You have to know your art and the trade, and in the meantime, you have to develop like skills that will help you to interact effectively with other people, manage yourself. So that's an area probably like we miss out a lot. Managing self is the ultimate thing. If you know how to control your thought, mind, your body, you can control a lot of things around you. Right? So our role as corporate trainers is to build up formal and informal learning interventions and facilitate the people to acquire those knowledge and skills so that they will transform themselves.
Great. Now, tell us about your journey, where you started off and what made you come into this industry.
Good question. I will start from my university education. So when I finished my school education, I had the option to, it's based on the ranks, right? So the rank that I got, I had the option to either choose information technology or textile and apparel engineering. I chose textile and apparel engineering because I felt it is an industry which has a global presence. As a very small country in South Asia, even by that time, like 2 decades ago, this industry was connecting vastly with the remaining continents around the world. So I believed that I was a very young kid, right? So, but I had been reading. It's a habit that I have formed thanks to my parents. I read Sunday newspapers.
Okay.
So, as a result of that, I have acquired a little bit something more than some of my friends did. And then as a result of that, I selected the course of study. And through this, I learned the tools of the trade, about the fabrics, about how to make clothing and all this. In the meantime, I was very aware about what's going on in the industry and captured that. And I got the great opportunity to join this organization called ISEC, through which I was introduced to the concept of peer learning. So within ISEC, we keep on developing young people, and a lot of development happens through the peer model. That means like within the same level, you create learning opportunities. Your typical education system believes in getting a teacher to stand in front of a group and teach. It is somewhat practiced. You get a senior person, you get someone more experienced, that is needed. While doing it, we facilitate learning experiences between the youth. So that as a result of that, I would learn from someone who comes to Sri Lanka from another country, like someone within the same age group. Sometimes I would learn from another university colleague who is from the University of Jaffna. So this kind of diverse experiences led me to be very interested about personal development, self-development, etc. And at one conference, we had an event where like we wanted to discover ourselves. It was as a part of like a series of questions. Through that, we discovered that what's our passion. And I found my passion is more into learning and education rather than into textile and apparel. So I continued, and then I became a part-time tuition teacher. Then I became like online teacher for the students in the UK back in 2009. Okay. So well before the online classes, Zoom lectures, everything came in. Then moving forward, we set up an educational institute called Wisma Global Education, and then through which we carried out educational programs for CIMA students. And in 2015, with another group of my colleagues, we set up Cognito Asia Private Limited, and through which over the last several years, we have been providing training and different learning interventions to over 40 companies in Sri Lanka.
Right, and well, that's a very good example of how one can choose a particular path, and then later on you realize maybe something else might be the best path for me, and it's always good to switch and find out what you have next, because sometimes what happens is we choose a certain path and we feel the need to stick to it, but I believe the switch for you turned out to be better indeed.
It was.
Right, and when it comes to being a corporate trainer, just like any industry, there are challenges. What are some of the challenges you face as a corporate trainer?
Right, one of the challenges we face is actually the mindset. I think I mentioned in the beginning of my discussion as well, several people think your education stops with schooling. Right. So that mindset is a challenge with regards to upgrading the skills of the people. Together with that, there is a challenge of where the companies also they do not see training as a priority in a lot of cases. So especially in the trying times like now, they would like to focus on keeping the business going rather than trying to find how to get the better output from the people. And together with that, what we find is that comparatively, some organizations who prioritized training and development, especially in apparel industry. You might have heard the term like big boys in the industry, right? In one of your programs. Yeah. Big boys in the industry were not big boys in 90s. They prioritized learning and development in the industry, so that the big boys in 90s are nowhere to be seen now, but the group of big boys who came into light in early 2000s are doing strong now. Why? Right. Because of emphasis on learning and development.
Okay, and when it comes to corporate training and education, the combination of all of that, how does that turn into citizens becoming adding citizens? How can they become value-adding citizens?
Yes, it's again a quite needed thing in today's world, especially in Sri Lanka, because needless to say, our economy is struggling. But the answer is not complaining. We have to work on utilizing our huge workforce, right? So if you look at the numbers, there are about 14,000, 15,000 graduates coming out of the education system, and think about another 250,000 young people who finish A-levels. So in our journey, our emphasis is not only to equip the people to work in an organization and get results so that the owners can become richer. That is not our endeavor.
Right.
Our endeavor is to support people, can be young, can be not so young, support people to improve themselves to become more value-adding by doing things such as starting with doing our day-to-day job more effectively, right? So we start with ourselves and trying to be more innovative within the role that we have, right? Breaking off the mindset that you have to be a creative genius like Picasso. You can become an innovator. You can utilize the available things, right? So you might have heard the story where like there was some manufacturing company, and when these boxes were coming along the line, they had several empty boxes coming in the production line, and some consultants brought up very expensive ideas, but one person said, you put up a fan there, so the empty boxes will be blown away, only the full boxes will move on, right? So that is the frugal, simple innovation that leads to great results. So we want to support people to take up this value-adding mindset and become more industrious so that the country will thrive while you are individually thriving and your company is thriving also.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the younger generation, the youth in today's society, there's definitely a switch compared to the millennials and the baby boomers. The Gen Z is completely different. They don't really stick to one occupation and develop years of experience like the previous generations used to, but rather they switch quickly. And that has become a big issue for companies as well. How do you think this shift in the younger generation's mindset has affected the corporations, and how do you think you can shift their mindset maybe towards a better understanding?
You are right. I mean, we have some computer programmers who are rock guitar players in the evening, right? It is a good trend in the way that these people will not get exhausted within a short time in their career because they have a little bit of diversity in the things that they do. But in the meantime, we get the complaint from the senior managers that these younger people are so hard to manage, and they are always thinking about their second gig rather than their job. In my belief, the companies should change the way that they look at how to groom young talent and how to give them assignments, in the way that the companies are having the challenge that you have to find people who are more connecting themselves with the core and identity of the company. And in that way, the companies are compelled to go beyond just profit-making engines. The companies are also compelled to become someone who is an active part of the society. So then younger people will see, all right, so this company has something to do with the society at large in addition to their own manufacturing or service provision. That is one aspect. And the other thing is, a lot of mentorship is needed. These young people are, while they are really smart, which is a great strength, there is a weakness that they are misled by different fads on internet. Right? Get rich quick schemes. These are misleading young people. So it's very important to build effective role models within organizations, provide mentorship, and create that connection between the values of the individual with the organization and connect it to the society.
Okay. And how can the youth develop capabilities? Like we previously spoke about the youth becoming value-adding citizens and giving something back to the country. How can they develop capabilities to do so?
Yes. Now I will start with the concept of capabilities. Right. We have different levels in it. Some people would start from you know how to do it. Right. So whether you know about it is already tested at your school education. Right. So that's the way it is done. Continuously our school education, I'm not negatively criticizing. It has to be a part. I mean, it's an essential foundation, but we can do a little bit of modifications. So within that, they would try to make people aware about things. But if I may take the other end of the spectrum, that is where the person is capable, can do the things, can do what is needed, right? So within which the person has a certain amount of self-driven nature, ability to think on their own and take necessary decisions, ability to make further innovations within what they do, as well as at a certain level guide the others and get work done, right? So now that is a very mature level of capability. So our quest is to find that journey, right? So the school education gives you the awareness, you know about it, right? And then within our capability development process, we would identify knowledge, skills, attitudes as 3 fundamental blocks of formation. So these are identified as the competencies. So all 3 together is a competency, right? So when you are wanting to build a capability, you have to grow all of them parallelly to complement each other, right? So let's say you are a presenter on TV, right? So as much as you bring your passion into it, you are, I believe you are practicing your daily scripts, you are practicing your style in front of the mirror, right? So these things are all embedded and continued in order to build the capability. So a capable human being, let it be a private company which is profit oriented, governmental organization which is like public service oriented, or a not-for-profit organization. In all these areas, the capable individuals should be having that ability to, in one angle, know what is necessary. For any role, there is a certain amount of base knowledge you should possess.
Right.
On top of that, there is a part that you should know that you know, and you should know that you don't know.
Okay.
So the biggest issue comes when you are not very clear about this too. If you don't know what you don't know, you don't make any effort to find it. That's right. So we have to have that clarity about what I know versus what I don't know within the field I am operating. And then together with that, using what I know, I should develop my ability to practice that. Okay, so let it be creating a learning content, right? So in that case, I know a certain amount. I am, as a trainer, I am knowing only a narrow scope, right? I believe that I understand that, but every time there is a need, I would go and look for the possibilities of expanding that. Right. So let's say, for example, we are producing a video here, and then I don't know much about lighting. I would go and search, right? That's a I don't know part. Okay. I know I don't know, I go and find it, right? I will know it only when I'm doing it. That's why our skills development is very important. So we give opportunities to try out, practice, make mistakes, right? If you go to my YouTube channel, I have kept a video from 2011 or 2013, okay. Right? My channel is Business Guru. I will mention it later. Some people ask me, why do you keep that video? You look so like ungroomed, etc. But the point is, it always is a good reminder that I started in that way and I am right now here. Okay, so over the time, by doing it, we learn it. And the next thing is the attitude part. So that is very difficult to fix individually, right? So I cannot fix your attitude. Right? So you cannot fix my attitude neither. So for the attitude development, we have to create a pleasant surrounding, a supporting surrounding that will help the improvement of attitudes. Right? So this is where especially the upper management of the organization has a role. If you find the frontline or customer facing employees of your organization treating rudely, to the customers, what is going on? Actually, the top level management is not treating well enough to the employees. And then it is cascading down all the way down to the customer, right? So therefore, the attitude development should come from within. And it is all about establishing that environment within the organization and allowing people to face situations which will challenge their attitude. You might have a certain attitude at the age of 18, then you face a certain incident by the age of 25, which can make a shift in your mindset, right? So that kind of opportunities, you can either wait until the natural universe brings in front of you, but if you are like very concerned business owner or an organization leader, you can drive your people to a situation like that and ensure they are not punished for the mistakes that they do.
Right.
So let them learn from it. Within a certain range, you can allow them to make mistakes.
Right.
So with this, I believe experiences get created, and ultimately you move towards that, the capable part of the spectrum, and person can do the job more effectively, and as an individual also they become much more happier.
Right. And well, that's a very good example, and something which came to my mind as well. I remember watching a video of there's a motivational speaker with the name of Simon Sinek, and he was saying that there was a certain employee who works at two establishments. One is a world-class hotel chain, which is not in Sri Lanka, but it's around the world. He works at that hotel chain and he works at another restaurant, but he's a completely different person at the restaurant as he is at the hotel. So when this guy went and asked him what's the reason for this, he said that at the restaurant his managers and his top level bosses really treat him in a bad way, like you mentioned as well. But at the hotel, every single manager, all the way to the top general manager, they always come and ask the employee how he or she is doing, and because of that, the employee reflects it in a positive way to the customer, and the customer really feels it. So yeah, that is very good advice as well. Now, when it comes to the digital era, it's something which has made a big impact in today's society, and a lot of the youth are making use of digitalization as well. What do you think this digital era brings in terms of opportunities?
Yes, digital era is actually accelerating our growth, right? So I mean, there is a saying that if aerospace technology developed at the rate that this computer and internet based technology developed, they would go to the moon within like 5 years from Wright brothers finding the aeroplane.
Right.
So it's transforming really fast, and as you rightfully said, there are many opportunities. The young people, they can access a lot of knowledge to begin with, so that they can start becoming aware about what is available in the world, and how can they improve themselves. That is number one. On the other hand, they get a lot of networking opportunities. With the digital technology, it's not just like having a pen pal. Now you can talk to them in real time, you can see them, then through that they will form not only social happiness, you know, like you are happy to have some friends, but they can take it beyond that. There are opportunities to collaborate with the other people who have like more experience, who have different experiences, so that you can fill the missing pieces of your puzzle. This creates an opportunity for these younger people to advance themselves in their professional life, or if they wish to become entrepreneurs, they can find ways to start a new business in the other side of the world through this. Another thing is with digitalization, a lot of human effort is not needed now, right? So you can access all these online facilities. You don't have to go to the bank now. You don't have to go to like get certain things printed. It will be printed and delivered to your home. So a lot of things are bridged by the digital technology, and it's up to us to see digital technology as an opportunity rather than a threat, and utilize it in a positive manner.
Right. Now, Speaking of entrepreneurship, it's something which a lot of people are passionate about in today's society, and there's a gradual development in passion for entrepreneurship, which is a good sign. How would you define entrepreneurship? What is your definition of the word and the meaning of it?
Right. A very fundamental definition is about someone who utilizes the land, labor and capital in a good combination or in appropriate combination to generate value. Okay, but in today's world it has become a lot more competitive, so that just putting few things together is not a solution, right? So let's say, for example, in your area that you live, there is a need for some snacks, right? So if you just think, okay, I will make some good old pastries and keep it out there to sell, if you are the only one doing it, you might be getting a good sale. But then the very moment another innovative competitor comes, right? So another different formulation, even a different shape, and maybe add another wrapping that will make it easier to consume the snack on the go. Now that innovative nature will set them apart, and then it creates a bigger competition, right? So the entrepreneurs in today's world, they are actually the ones who can spot the opportunities in the market out there, the problem solving opportunities and value adding opportunities, and utilize all those land, labor and capital in order to solve that problem in an innovative approach, right? So you come out of the typical way of doing it, right? So now used and abused example is Uber. Back in the past, you had to call a cab, right? So now you don't have to call a cab, you can book one using the mobile app, right? But then again, what did they do? It is industry disruption. So basically, they looked at the way industry operates and they did not try to make a better version of the same industry. What they tried was use another parallel technology that can complement with what you have here and get rid of some items which are not adding value. You know, like you keep on calling a taxi to explain the route that they should take. It's not a value adding activity, right? It's a value, actually you are losing value. You are losing your time, you are getting frustrated, you are losing your money on making the call, right? Instead of that, you show it on the map, right, which is already available technology. So the role of the entrepreneurs today is to see the available technologies and what are the needs of the people, combine these things to come up with better ideas. And this does not limit only to information technology. That's another mistake a lot of people are making.
Right.
Every time we say technology, information technology, mobile phones, websites, apps, yes, they are great. But there are so many other technologies, right? So nanotechnology, biotechnology, space technologies, right? Sometimes even simple mechanical forms of technology. If an entrepreneur is able to combine these to create a better value output, now that's a great example of entrepreneurship.
Right. Now, in entrepreneurship, just like we spoke about challenges previously in corporate training, what are some of the challenges you find in entrepreneurship?
Right. In entrepreneurship, I guess you can see the challenges for those who are starting up to begin with. When starting up, a lot of young people face the social stigmas to begin with. You know, you feel that what would other people say, right? What would my parents say? Will I end up losing everything that I have? Maybe will I have a bad reputation? Oh, that guy is Mudalali, right? So businessman. So the whole social fabric is created in a way that people kind of envy someone who is brave to go out there and generate bigger wealth, right? So that envious nature had created a certain negative mentality about these people starting up entrepreneurship.
Right.
So it's one of the biggest challenges. Fortunately, however, over the last 10 years, we are making improvements, right? So you can see the society is transforming. You can see more younger people trying to take up entrepreneurship as a career option. And in that way, we can see there is a good side. And after starting, once you start, the challenge is that these young people are not actually lacking money, right? So a lot of people, when we ask, what's the big problem? We don't have money, we don't have capital. Actually, what you are lacking is the guidance. The guidance, especially selfless guidance. Sometimes people might come in and they try to give guidance, but with a hidden motive.
Right.
Rather than that, why don't they say, okay, you want to start a business, I will guide you. Give me 10% of your business. Now, that is a good, straightforward transaction. But instead of that, if it becomes a hidden agenda, then it's a problem. Right? So I would always encourage, we should have that kind of a startup ecosystem. The formal companies who are in it now, they do it, right? But there can be situations where young people don't get that kind of support. That is one thing. And then when these people don't have that guidance, they don't know where to go, right? So if you want to get certain approvals, how can I get them, right? So you have to have a very good public sector support in a way that even a person from a faraway village can obtain that information without having to have a favor from another friend within the organization, right? So that kind of bureaucracy should be flattened, and then the information flow should be more smoother, so these young people can quickly get into the business. And then when continuing, another challenge, actually I told you money is not a problem at the beginning,
right.
But as you expand, money becomes an issue, within which our banking system should become more supportive, right? So banks are more oriented towards giving a loan, getting more interest and making profit. But the banking system should become more supportive. They should be staying ahead of the private other companies in the way that they understand, okay, what is cryptocurrency? What is this non-fungible contracts? How can we bring foreign revenue into the accounts? Sometimes when a young entrepreneur goes to a bank, they look at that young entrepreneur like a criminal. This is because of the ignorance of the bankers, right? So these are some of the challenges that we have, and at large lack of spaces, right? So when you are starting a business, buying a building, these kind of things are difficult. So these kind of things, if they are improved, it's a lot better. So I hope these things will be done in the future.
Right. And what are some of the international trends we see in entrepreneurship of which we can maybe take as an example and utilize in Sri Lanka as well?
Well, internationally, I believe to begin with, some of the leading countries in this sector, they have a very good governance structure, right? So from the government side, they are very aware about what's going on, right? So the governments are believing in establishing startup nations, right? So if you take Israel, it is identified as a startup nation, right? So the whole country is a startup, yeah. And then obviously United States and some of the other developed European countries, they have been in the forefront, but interestingly countries like Dubai, which are actually monarchies, right? So these are not even democratically formed countries. Even the monarchies are now being very entrepreneurship oriented, right? So they are seeing how we can utilize these technologies in the government sector, and through that it can propagate to the general public. And apart from that, I believe all these the crypto related ones, right? So especially the way that you can form agreements and digitally without being any opportunity of hampering them, there is a big opportunity out there, right? So it's not only limited to cryptocurrency, right? So you have to see it beyond that. Then apart from that, globally, over the next, I believe, 50 or 100 years, the problems related to the decaying of natural resources, the changes to the natural environment and the global warming coming as a result of that, these things will be problems to the people who look at them as problems. And these things will be great opportunities to the people who look at them as opportunities in business. Right? So for that, there will be so many opportunities to create technologies around, like how to make your surrounding, like ecosystem better, how to grow plants in a more environmentally friendly manner, how to minimize the utilization of harmful chemicals, how to take the best out of the available sunlight. I mean, how much of the sun are we using, right? So, using those natural resources, how to transform them into more value-adding goods, services or utilities. Those are some of the big trends. And then apart from that, obviously I believe you see like automatic, like self-driven vehicles and all these things that are supported by 5G, 6G technologies. Together with that, connecting them into one whole big network, right? So it is possible when all these vehicles are connected to a lot of other vehicles also, right? So then these systems of automatic driving will become more effective. Now that is at the larger scale. And at a smaller scale also it gives opportunities. So now we should never think that just because, you know, like Tesla and a few other large automobile manufacturers can make autonomous vehicles, but some of those technologies are available in smaller form where you can create plug and play interfaces, right? So some of the automations nowadays don't need a lot of technical knowledge. All you need is the ambition and the will, through which you can connect these technologies, and after that, when it comes to creating the program, now there are low code, no code technologies. That means you don't have to learn how to write a computer code. Even you, right? Let's say you want to plan out something related to a TV program, there are no code technologies. You can drag and drop, link each other and click run, it will work, right? So that kind of technologies are making a huge difference in the world that we live in. Another thing is open innovation. Open innovation is where in the past when people innovated, they are very protective about their technology, right? So this is what I patented, I am not going to show you what I have in here. That era is over, okay? So now we have to be in the open innovation in a way that it is not stealing a patent, right? So here what happens is you create a global marketplace of innovations. So now imagine you innovated the technology using the microphone that you are wearing, right? And I am creating a camera that can be used in an adventure location. You are right here in the studio. Your microphone you created here to face certain natural circumstances. I am saying, okay, it looks like this technology can be utilized in my camera, so let's form an agreement. I will utilize your microphone and then I will pay you a reasonable amount, right? So in that way, open innovation is you are not limiting your knowledge and technology into your whole chamber. You make it open out there and people innovate on top of it, but you create a system where everyone is reasonably distributed of their value. So money that you earn from creating the end product, some amount goes to the innovator as well, right? So these are some of the trends that we see in the world.
Okay, and with all these trends and all these facilities and innovations going on, how can Sri Lankans seize these entrepreneurial opportunities? Sri Lanka, I believe, had been an entrepreneurial country, right? So if you look at our past, about 1500 years ago or 2000 years ago, you can find coins from several countries of the world, which means this was a trading hub. But somehow we lost it, right? So we have to reignite that. So in the simple terms, what we can do is, first we have to get rid of that social stigma about entrepreneurship is bad, making money is bad.
we should let go of those. We have to adopt the mindset that making money rightfully is a good thing. And even in the times of Lord Buddha, there were very big, wealthy merchants, those who managed to offer big estates and temples to Lord Buddha. So in the same way, within our religious and cultural system, we can do business. We have to adopt that mentality. And the next thing is, we have to build a supportive knowledge ecosystem. That is why actually I established Business Guru YouTube channel, where I learned a specialist set of knowledge and skills about entrepreneurship when I did my masters in Australia. Right, I did my masters in entrepreneurship, through which I learned about how to practically implement design thinking and lean startup methodologies.
Right.
So this lean startup methodology, I managed to bring it here, make it more localized, and obviously it is on YouTube. It's free for everyone to learn from. It's like a 5-part video series, very activity driven. In addition to that, I worked with some of the universities to implement these modules in their university's curriculum.
Right.
So as a result of that, we established the mindset to follow fail fast, learn quick mentality, where you try out the business idea, but you are very aware about where you can go wrong. You learn from it and you do the modifications and you come to the market once again.
Okay.
And the other thing is, what you have to do is, you have to utilize the tools and frameworks which are already available. Right? So in how to analyze the customer, how to analyze the customer segment, find out their pains and what are the non-value adding jobs they are doing, and what are the gains that they are expecting. So there are frameworks that they can follow, through which, if you have the courage to become an entrepreneur, there is the way. Right? And moving forward, soon after you get into that level, you should get that ecosystem support. You have to keep on searching and very often try to find out where can I access the resources, network effectively, try to get into the right groups of people. Your personality is decided by the 5 people that you closely associate with. Right? So it's very important to get into the right grouping of people, and through that, keep on continuously asking, how can I be better in my business than I was yesterday, and bring on improvements. That's the way that Sri Lankan can thrive into entrepreneurship.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that knowledgeable advice and insight into corporate training as well as entrepreneurship as well. That was Sam Karandagoda, corporate trainer. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for inviting Sri Lanka Rupavahini.
And that winds up today's episode of Business Today. Do join us next time as well. Till then, have a good night.